This is the Louie T Network.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to lockdown coverage week number 5 in the National Football League. Buffalo Bills taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. This was a game that was sloppy by nature because of the weather. Literally sloppy by nature. The weather played a huge part in both teams. A lot of turnovers, a lot of sloppy play, but at the end of the day, you got to find a way to get it done in the Cincinnati Bengals. And I figured they would do this. At home, this Buffalo Bills team lacking one of their best receivers on a team that already didn't have margin for error at the receiver position. You take away the best one that they have, and now you're throwing the football to Kalen Clay, and then you lose. And I talked about this, and I don't know if you remember this, but after the win over the Broncos a couple of weeks ago, I said the one player this Buffalo Bills team can ill afford to lose on the offensive side is Charles Clay. And what does he do? He goes down right around the second quarter, doesn't return. They have to bring the card out for him. That's never good. Little worried about that. Still haven't heard anything as to the extent of that injury. But if that is a season-ending injury, this Bills season is about to go down the toilets. You saw what happened to this offense in this game. They struggled mightily. They were only able to muster 16 points. You can blame that on the weather if you like. I think that anytime O'Leary is the best receiver you got and has the most receiving yards in that particular game for you, you're going to lose the football game, and you're going to lose more football games if he's your leading receiver. Okay, his name strikes no fear in anyone's heart, and Charles Clay is such a huge part of what you do because of the lack of receivers. This is the backlash from not re-signing Robert Woods. This is the backlash from trading away Samuel Watkins when you don't have anyone on this roster to replace those guys. This is what happens when you allow Marquise Goodwin to walk away. You don't have anything here. All you have is Zay Jones, and I told you he's not a number 1 wide receiver. Okay? He's a number 2. And until you get a number 1 to complement him, he's going to look inferior against number 1 corners in this league. He's a number 2. He needs to be put in his place. He can't do that because he's the go-to guy right now. Okay? You got a bunch of no-name wide receivers and guys that shouldn't be getting a ton of targets, yet that's the way it's set up because of the injuries, and you just don't have a lot of depth. So this Bills football team, going to rely heavily on their run game, on Tyrod Taylor to provide them with offense. And it's going to be rough if Charles Clay is out for any extended period of time. As far as Cincinnati goes, that slow start to the season seems like ages ago. Now 2 straight wins. You look up at the division. You see the Ravens struggling over the last month. You look at the Steelers the last 2 weeks or last 3 weeks and how they've struggled and lost 2 out of their last 3 ball games. And all of a sudden, you're 1 game out of first place. So it's amazing what a difference a couple of weeks can make for a team in this league. And that's why they had to beat Cleveland last week. They did. They dominated them, as a matter of fact. And they may have been 1 week too late getting rid of Kim Zampese. But again, they're right in the thick of things now in that AFC North division. Don't think they're going to have enough juice to get it done. That loss at home to Baltimore may be a deciding factor in terms of tiebreakers and things of that nature going down the road. You hate losing that game at home. You much rather have lost that game on the road. Losing that one at home could prove detrimental to your season down the road. But at least there's a down the road to worry about now if you're Cincinnati. After winning 2 straight and going into the bye week at 2-3, you got to feel good about where you are if you are this Cincinnati Bengals football team. We'll talk about both of these teams, where they go from here after this game, and what I've seen from these teams in the first 5 weeks and what I saw in this particular game and how that's going to affect them moving forward. But first, If you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game over here. I want you to help us do that by simply hitting the subscribe button, becoming a member of the Louie T Network. Also, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. All of those links are down in the description of this video, along with a way to donate to the Louie T Network. If you can, I will graciously accept any donations that you may have, no matter how big or small. I appreciate them all. If you can donate, the link is right in front of you. The link is also in the description down below this video and all my other videos. So take a look down in the description and help yourself. There are a number of ways for you to stay engaged with the Louie T Network. And again, if you can't donate, all I ask is that you continue to support this channel the way that you always have by watching, liking, and sharing the videos. That being said, let's jump into this video right now and talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, who won this game 20-16 over the Buffalo Bills. They've talked about the connection between Andy Dalton and AJ. It's AJ Green. Red Rifle and AJ Green have made beautiful music together since entering the league in the same draft. It's rare to get a quarterback and receiver in reverse order. Normally you get the quarterback first and then you might double back and get the receiver. They did the opposite way. They got the receiver first and then double back in the second round and got the quarterback. But they've made beautiful music together. But they've also turned it over more times than any other quarterback wide receiver combination in the league. When Andy Dalton is targeting AJ Green, good things happen, bad things happen. We know something's going to happen. It's either going to be really good or it's going to be really bad. You got a mixture of both. You got the antithesis of what this relationship has been throughout their time in the league together. You got that first touchdown of the game, 77 yards, just like that. Rookie corner, fell asleep behind the wheel against one of the league's best and had to pay for it. And that's what happens when you're a young corner getting baptism by fire against one of the best. He looked back at the quarterback, then looked back for AJ Green and said, AJ Green said, even leaving, son. You'll learn you don't do that to one of the best. You may have done that to all those peons you went against earlier in the season. That's not what this is. Ran right by that young man like he was standing still and smoked him for a 77-yard touchdown. And so that's the beauty of this relationship. That's the good side of what they bring to the table. The ugly is the two interceptions that Andy Dalton had in this game, both targets to AJ Green, one going right through his hands into the waiting arms of, I want to say that particular interception ended up being Micah Hyde. So in any event, there's mistakes that will be made when he throws the football because that's his guy. And if I'm a quarterback, I'm going to have the same temperament. If I'm going to get in trouble, if I'm going to make a mistake, it's going to be going to my guy. And, it's happened a number of times, but he was huge, had the big catch that set up the go-ahead score in this game. And so AJ Green had his best day of the season thus far in this game. Well over 100 yards. As a matter of fact, over 170 yards, if I'm not mistaken, in this game on 7 catches. He was outstanding, was A.J. Green. And Andy Dalton went over 300 yards passing despite the 2 interceptions. A.J. Green also had a fumble, so he single-handedly tried to keep the Buffalo Bills in this game, and the Bills did capitalize off of some of those mistakes, turning them into points. So A.J. Green did his part to make this a closer ball game than it needed to be. The weather did not help the situation, but no excuses. Got to catch the football. And so it was a sloppy game by both teams. The Bills struggled offensively all game long, as they should have. Tyrod Taylor was sacked 6 times as we get to the Bengals defense. And we'll circle back around to the offense. There are a couple more things that I want to talk about. But the defense, I thought they did a great job of keeping Tyrod Taylor neutralized in the pocket, kind of slowing down the run game. And look, he has no one to really go to. Once Charles Clay got injured in this game, they were in trouble. Nick O'Leary scares no one. Scares absolutely no one. Kalen Clay scares no one. Right now, Zay Jones scares no one. They don't have a lot of guys that strike fear into your hearts on the offensive side of the football. Shady McCoy is the guy that you got to stop offensively once you take Charles Clay out of the mix. And they did that for the most part in this football game, at least limited what he was able to contribute to this football team. And Tyrod Taylor, like I said, you keep him in the pocket. They sacked him 6 times in this game. You keep him in the pocket. You neutralize what he's able to do with his legs. You're going to have success against this Buffalo Bills team because Tyrod Taylor's job as this Bills quarterback is to make everyone around him better. And the best way you can do that as a quarterback is to go off schedule, to extend plays with your legs. That uncovers receivers that maybe not be able to uncover themselves on just a normal route. But when things break down, defenders' eyes leave their receivers and start gravitating towards the quarterback and what he's doing. All of a sudden, receivers get lost, guys become open, and then they win. And so he wasn't able to do that successfully, or at least on a consistent basis in this game. And I thought the Cincinnati Bengals defensively did some good things. George Iloka with the game-clinching interception. They did some really good things defensively. Like I said, this is more of the team that we expected when the season started. This is the team that we saw with Burfict back, and he was a man beast in this game. With him back in the middle of this defense and you getting all the parts around him and guys getting to the quarterback, I've talked about this since week 1. Carl Lawson is a problem, all right? And now you're starting to get other guys like your third-round pick out of K-State to come in and start to create pressure as well. All of a sudden now, you're getting multiple efforts getting to the quarterback, multiple guys chipping in, and all of a sudden now this defense is starting to look as advertised before the season started. And they're going to need more of these types of performances. The Bills offensively aren't a great football team. They don't pose a ton of threats. So you need to do this type of thing and have this type of performance versus this type of team, especially when their best weapon from a receiver standpoint goes down in the middle of the game early on. You need to have this type of performance. And so that was encouraging to see from the Cincinnati Bengals. As we double back to the offense quickly, Joe Mixon with the game, I guess game-winning touchdown. They took the lead at that point, 17-16 off his touchdown, or 17-13, one or the other. In any event, that was going to be enough to outlast the Bills in this game. But you start to see the changing of the guard there. He's getting the bulk of the carries. He's touching the football a little bit more. I think they need to get him the football more in the pass game still. I don't think he had a reception in this game, if my memory serves me correctly. He's a dynamic pass catcher. That's one of his best attributes. One of the things that they really exploited with him out in Oklahoma and Norman was his ability to beat linebackers in man-to-man coverage and win those one-on-one matchups. They're not using him correctly yet, to me. I need to see him touch it out of the backfield as a pass catcher a little bit more. And I don't care if it's in the screen game. I prefer you to split him out. He's actually got receiver-type hands. I'd love to see him run some of those receiver routes, win against linebackers, and have an opportunity to make some plays down the field, catching the football, because I think he is capable of doing that. Nonetheless, you get it done in this game, 20-16. The special teams unit continues to be a bright spot for you. I'm not a fan of Randy Bullock. I still think he's going to cost you a game or two down the road, but he was flawless in this game. And you know how I feel about the returns game. You've got one of the better return men in the league, kickoff and punt returners in the league. Adam Jones did go down. I don't know if he returned to the game or not, but with him and the other return man back there, his name escapes me at the moment, those guys give you an advantage. Every time they touch the football, they've got a chance to make a big play on special teams. So Cincinnati continues to get a boost from their special teams unit, and they did that in this game, and they ended up winning 20-16. You go to the Bills side of things. For me, it's rather simple. This team is going to create turnovers. They did that in this game. This team is going to have to remain turnover-free on their end. They didn't do that in this game. And they're going to have to find ways to manufacture offense. It's going to be tough sledding for them because this is not a talented offensive football team. They're just not. You've got Shady McCoy, you've got Tyrod Taylor, and Charles Clay. Those are your playmakers on this football team. When Jordan Matthews is healthy, he can help. Okay? But Zay Jones isn't ready to be what you need him to be because you don't have the guys around him to highlight his strengths right now. You're asking him to do too much. He's not a guy that's going to separate from really good corners in this league, number one corners in this league. He's going to struggle. He needs to be going up against number 2 and number 3 corners consistently so that he can win. And right now, that's not the case because you don't have anybody out there. And so you're going to struggle offensively unless you're able to run the football. The blueprint is what you did against Denver. The blueprint is what you did against the Jets in week 1. The blueprint is running the football. Okay? It'd be nice if Charles Clay were able to do what he did against Atlanta last week, but Charles Clay is now hurt. So now you take away a big weapon from Tyrod Taylor's limited arsenal. So now you got to heavily rely on the run game. Tolbert, Shady, and Tyrod Taylor are collectively going to have to carry this team on the ground with their legs. And if they can't do that, this team is going to suffer. And it's a shame because for as well as the Bills have played early on in this season, that Charles Clay injury, I can't state this enough, how big of an injury that could turn out to be for this football team. I hope it's something minor and it's week to week. And I told you, don't rely on Charles Clay. I told you this 3 weeks ago when he had a good game against Denver and followed that up with an even bigger game against Atlanta. I said, don't rely on Charles Clay. He's good to get injured for at least a couple of weeks. This may be a little bit longer than a couple of weeks. And so this could be catastrophic for this Buffalo Bills offense because in this game you saw the limited nature of this offense. When they can't run it effectively, when Tyrod Taylor can't get out of the pocket, when he's getting sacked, this is a team that's going to struggle because they just don't have the offensive weaponry to overcome deficiencies in the run game if they're not able to run it, deficiencies defensively if they're not able to stop the other team. Whatever the case may be, this is not a high-powered offense. Score needs to remain low, and this team needs to remain mistake-free. They didn't do that in this game, and the score was low enough. The defense gave you enough opportunities. Defense created turnovers in this game, 3 to be exact, if I'm not mistaken. So they did their job. The offense just they couldn't muster enough. Tyrod Taylor made a beautiful throw in the back of the end zone to the ex-Cincinnati Bengal, Brandon Tate. But again, when you're throwing the football to the likes of Brandon Tate, Kalen Clay, and Nick O'Leary, you have a problem. You have a serious, serious problem on your football team. And that's where this offense is in Buffalo right now. They need some help. They need some help back. That Anquan Bolden retirement is crippling your football team right now because you could sure use a reliable receiver like Anquan Bolden right now. As you go to the defensive side of the football, this defense has been phenomenal all season long. They were phenomenal in this game. They've created turnovers. They've gotten after the other team's quarterback. It was good to see Marcel Darius finally get a sack in this game. This is a team that Sean McDermott, this is his DNA. His defenses are going to get after you. They're going to create turnovers. And your safeties, your 2 new safeties, Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde continue to be huge contributors for your football team. It was a rough week for your rookie, Tre'Davious White. He had to get baptized this week. He didn't have a choice. But in any event, your safeties continue to show up each and every single week, make plays, and give you opportunities. Poyer not only had an interception, but also had a fumble recovery. Micah Hyde had an interception that led to a Bills touchdown. So this defense continues to give this team a chance each and every single week. Your field goal kicking situation has been really good to start out this season. And everything is where it needs to be for this team to continue to be competitive and win football games. But again, that Charles Clay injury scares me right now just because of the lack of weapons you have on offense. With Jordan Matthews being out for at least the next 2 or 3 weeks, that Charles Clay injury is huge in the grand scheme of things. I'll be definitely looking out for any news or word on his status moving forward the remainder of this season for the Buffalo Bills as they fall on the road in a nasty, rainy affair versus the Cincinnati Bengals 20-16. The Bills leave this game 3-2, snapping their 2-game winning streak. Meanwhile, the Cincinnati Bengals are now 2-3 and just 1 game back of the lead in the division behind both Baltimore and Pittsburgh, who are 3-2 in that AFC North division. As we get to some of your comments, if there are any out there for this particular game, Silver V says, Taylor is at the mercy of the general manager. No depth at none of the skill positions. If McCoy gets injured, then what? Shaking my damn head. If McCoy gets injured, they might as well wrap it up. They don't have another back that can do what Shady McCoy does. Hell, when he comes out of the game, they put in a guy that's essentially a fullback in Mike Tolbert, which tells you all you need to know about the lack of depth at that position. God forbid anything happened to Shady, they would really be in trouble because they don't have anything at the skill positions like you mentioned, Silver V. And so they need to do something. Cloud says, I think the Bengals are going to trade Hill, especially with Mixon in the fold. Well, I don't think anyone's going to trade for Jeremy Hill because he's on the last year of his contract. And so this is it for him in Cincinnati. They're just going to allow him to play out the year. And the one thing you can never have enough of is running backs because Mixon could go down next week. You need someone to step up, and Jeremy Hill may be the guy that takes the carries, and Gio will still do his third down thing and get a couple of carries on first and second down, but he'll still be your major third down back, and you just keep it moving there. So bottom line is Jeremy Hill's not going anywhere in my mind because you don't need to do anything. All you need to do is stand still in this situation and let the season play out, and then he'll be on his merry way after the season is done. Slip Ammo says, maybe the first interception is on Dalton. It hits his fingers, but if you want to blame Dalton, okay. Second interception is all greens, hit him right in the chest. Gotta have it. I wasn't going to put either one of those interceptions on Andy Dalton. The first one, like you said, if you want to place blame on Andy, go right ahead. I'm not going to stop you from doing so. But that second one, all AJ. All AJ Green right there. You can't put the football in a better spot. It's wet. I understand. I get it. Got to have it. Got to have it. You cannot allow that to go right through the wickets and right into the waiting arms of a Bills defender. I put that interception all on A.J. Green. No blame can be assessed to Andy Dalton whatsoever on that second one. And really, I was putting both of them on A.J. Green. As an ex-wide receiver, I judge hard on receivers. You touch the football, you got to make a play, or at least make sure that somebody else doesn't make a play. And I thought Green could have at least made sure that they didn't get the football on the first one. So in any event, that's how I judge both of those INTs. Cloud says, also off topic, do you think the Birds will play Sidney Jones this season? I think they will, in my opinion. If he's healthy, he will go. They can use help in that secondary. They are not good in that secondary still. They just haven't really been challenged thus far. But I've watched some teams take advantage of them. Keenan Allen had a really good day versus the Eagles. You can move the football on that Eagles secondary. And so if Sidney Jones is healthy, he will play. No doubt about that in my mind. Let's see what else we have. Cloud says, also firing that OC helped them a lot. It helped them tremendously. If they had done this a week sooner, they would have beat Green Bay. They did it the week of the Green Bay game, and they almost won that game. They should have won that game. Had they done it a week sooner, they probably would have won that week 2 game versus Houston. That was the one that was there for the taking. I don't know if they still would have won the Baltimore game or not. They turned it over 5 times in that game. I don't know if that's a byproduct of bad play calling or what. They just turned it over too many times, and Andy Dalton got wrecked in that game. I don't know if the outcome of that game would have been any different. Maybe they don't get shut out, but I don't know if they win that game or not. But the week 2 game, absolutely a win versus Houston. First week that Deshaun Watson starts, they win that game if they had a better offensive game plan going into that one. So in any event, we'll see what happened. Silver V says, my dad is a big Bengals fan. He says, don't be fooled by a good game here and there. They need to revamp and rebuild with a new coach and quarterback, new training staff, and GM. Look, I don't know if a big rebuild is coming in Cincinnati or not. Andy Dalton, to me, isn't going anywhere. He's not the problem. There is going to be a new coach, I believe, after the season. I don't think Cincinnati is going to make the playoffs this year, and I think they haven't given Marvin Lewis a new deal for a reason. How often do you see a lame duck coach? They at least usually give him a 1-year extension. They haven't even given him that. So that lends me to believe that this is it for him. He was already contemplating retirement last offseason. So I think this is it. They're going to play out the contract. They're going to move on. And most likely, they're going to promote from within. Probably their defensive coordinator is going to become their new head coach. That's how they do things in Cincinnati. So it wouldn't shock me in the least if they promote from within. If this offense takes off this year, Bill Lazor could be the head coach. If the defense continues to play well, their defensive coordinator will probably end up being their new head coach. In any event, I don't know if this is a total rebuild. They got a lot of young, talented football players that still need development. They draft well every single year. I don't know if this is a total rebuild situation in Cincinnati. We'll see. But Slip says, "Happy Columbus Day, Lou. Enjoy your day off." This is my day off. Football is my day off. So I always enjoy my day off, so to speak. In any event, Bengals get the win. 2-3 now after starting 0-3, 2 straight wins, and voila, look where they are. With the Pittsburgh Steelers struggling on the offensive side of football, and the Ravens just a mess, period. This team is 1 game out of first place. Can you believe that after the 0-3 start? That's why this league is so crazy. And that's why I told you, do not count Cincinnati out. Don't count any of these winless teams out when they were 0-3. That was the crossroads week where you needed to win. You go to 0-4, you're done. You go to 0-3 and you find a way to win, you got a shot. And voila, just like that. Indianapolis, right in the thick of things in their division. And same can be said for the Cincinnati Bengals, who are now 2-3 after 2 straight wins and a big one at home versus the surging Buffalo Bills, who disappoint in this game, fall to 3-2, and they got a big injury report coming. What is the status of Charles Clay? Because they can ill afford to lose him for an extensive period of time. If he's gone for the remainder of the season, they are in trouble in Buffalo. It's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Lockdown coverage. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the lab room. Come back and continue to join me. Bills fall to the Bengals 20-16. That's a big one for the Bengals. Tough one to swallow if you're the Buffalo Bills in a rain-soaked game in Cincinnati. I got much more football coming your way. More lockdown coverage, including a couple of stinksters. All right, Dolphins get it done at home versus the Titans in the funkiest game potentially of the year. And also, Jets, Browns, need I say more? I'll see you in a little bit. Got to do them, right? Well, let's get them out the way then. See you in a bit.